Oh, I lagged there for a second. Oh, fear. Hello, everybody.
My obs is also my obs is just kind of not responding. So yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be like that. Oh my gosh, it's that kind of day. Hi, everybody.
Look, my computer just lags. Also, yes, hello everyone.
This is a
Welcome to
12
Jew has
FPS.
computer issues.
Technical difficulties. The game. Oh heck.
Yeah,
Oh gosh.
baby.
Oh dear. This is something to believe in. My name is Whis. I am playing Chifley Forde today. And I am joined by the very delightful and yet being bullied by their computer. You beg Kieran.
Hello, my name is Jew. My computer ceaselessly bullies me because it is cruel and harsh mistress, and I do not please her in any way, shape, or form. So she punishes me this way. However, it's fine because today I'm going to be playing Lao is blind. And during this video, you may hear whining from somewhere. That's probably me because there are dogs outside my door wanting to go out for walkies, but they have to wait. Yes, I know. They're gonna have to wait a while. But anyhow. What are we doing today? What are we doing? Oh yeah.
Well,
This is something to believe in. I don't know if we said that already.
yeah. So when Lao and Chifley first met, they had a bit of a conversation about their deities and how one worships their deity. And Lao offered to help Chifley make a shrine locally in Toontown because the only one that Chifley knew of was in the score, or actually quite some way outside the score, which is in the northern part of the Pixar Protectorate. It's a while from Toontown. So
It's only a short hop and a. Oh, it'll take you only about like what, a couple weeks on foot. You'll be fine. You can do that.
yeah, I think it took him and Missy 4 months or so to walk it. Then
Oh
again, they weren't
god.
doing the direct route. They were doing something else. But anyway, I digress.
Let's continue.
So it's time for Lau to make good on that one.
Yes.
So I'm
Gosh.
imagining that because Lau had already told Chifley to have a chat to him about this when last time he was giving Chifley a talking to about his physical health. Not the last time. The time before the last time, because the last time he froze Lau's kitchen.
Last time.
The time before that. So Chifley is going to go and visit Lau and
Excellent.
and say hi. He's in a much better position to do so now that he knows that his cousin is not missing and his head doesn't hurt and so many good things. He's good. He's in a good place.
He is having physical goodness.
Yep. So he's just gonna head up to Lau's apartment and knock on the door.
Okay. Whilst you're doing that, could you roll me a perception, please?
Yeah, I can do that. Get my clicky click. That's not stellar, Chiff. It's an 11.
Okay, probably don't notice anything then. Yeah.
It's the third floor.
I presume. Don't worry. Are you taking the stairs or are you taking the lift up? It's like an apartment building, and Lao's probably told you from last time that, or at least the last time you saw him, that oh yes, you can use the lift now. It was out of service a while back, but it's recently been made accessible again.
Okay, well he'll use the lift, I imagine.
Oh, you do notice there is kind of a dink in the door, just kind of outside of it. Like there's a slight dent, but it's fine.
Right. Well, we just get in, push the button for floor number 3, and off he goes.
Oh yeah, up you go. And you with a ding, you arrive on the floor with the little counter counting up. And yeah, you get to Lau's floor, and you just knock on the door.
Yep.
Cool. Now I've got a question for you. Would Chifley have told Lau that he's coming over?
Yeah, he would have. He wouldn't have
Alright.
just appeared.
Okay, cool, that's fine. If that's the case, you're just gonna hear just a moment, and it's just you're gonna hear some quiet sort of shuffling noises.
Mhm.
And then the door's gonna kind of click, click, and open, and you probably just see that Lau is just started to like put his inside chair, which is a very comfortable modified office chair for him to get around his house a lot easier. He's just kind of putting that in a place near the door, and he's just sort of realigned and settled himself into his outdoor chair. Just
His adventure chair.
yes,
Mhm.
sorry, what was that? I didn't hear it.
Oh, I said his adventure chair.
Yes, his adventure chair. Is I have to do outside things today, chair. Yeah, he's gonna open the door and he's just going to look up and say, Chifley, yes, you have arrived. Yes, right, let me just, and he's gonna crawl over. Sol, could you get the... No, not that. No, you know what, never mind. Give me just a moment. And he is gonna turn around and he's gonna sort of tap something out of your eye view, and you're gonna hear some noises, some weird like shuffling noises again. And then Lau's gonna back around the door, open it a little wider, and he's just gonna have actually I'm gonna roll a sleight of hand. Yeah, no, you see this. You see him shove some sort of something into his hammer space. He is wearing his sari today. He's wearing his nice blue sari with the flowers on the hem and along the slash around. And just kind of you see him just kind of put something
That goes up
underneath,
over his chest as well, doesn't it? That's like it's a full body outfit. That.
Yes, he's got a sash. He's got flowers decorating around the collar, and he's got some blooms around the fringe of the end of the sari. And yeah, Fable did some very pretty art of this. Yes, he's dressed up like that, and he's tucked something between the folds of the sari. You can't quite make out what it is, but he's put something in there, and he just kind of does and says, "Right, well, I believe you'll hear about the about setting up the shrine, aren't you?"
As long as that's still all right.
Of course, I'm not doing anything today, and I've taken care of most, if not all, of the plants. And if there's anything that needs to be seen to, I should be able to see to it tonight. He starts to sort of mutter to himself, and his eyes kind of go a little distant. He shakes his head and just right, okay. Anyhow, I suppose we should be getting on then. I need to make sure actually. Sol, you just hear a. You see Sol's head peek around the kitchen doorway. Don't break anything, and if you do break something, at least make sure something can clean it up. Actually, it might actually be better if you went outside. Actually, yes, no, Sol, go outside. Don't stay indoors. I know what you'll be like. Sol just cling, 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 nods their head, and then you hear like a ka-tunk, 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 coming further from inside the house. Loud pointedly does not look, makes his way outside, like he just kind of look at you, because I presume he's still standing in the door.
I had wondered how Saul got in and out of your apartment, but
I'm rather much used to it by now, and quite frankly, I'm not foolish enough to keep replacing it with normal glass. It tends to be able to repair itself in some manner. It's It's a more efficient option, at least. And he just kind of sighs and then closes the door behind him, looks at Chifley, and then well, kind of gestures for Chifley to follow him as he makes his way down the corridor.
Chifley will smile and nod and then follow on behind.
Could you roll me one last perception, please?
I can, in fact.
Cool.
Oh, that's much better, Chif. Good. Whoop. What was it? 4? What was your numbers? Yes. 19.
19. Cool. As you walk away, you hear from like the very end of the corridor, you hear like a banging on a door. And if you were to like look over your shoulder, one of the doors would start bulging out.
He's definitely gonna be looking over his shoulder, and he's gonna like hesitate a little bit, like half mid-step, and just sort of look at the door.
Lao is not gonna look back, but he's gonna call out, "Don't go near that. Don't don't go near that. Don't worry about that. It's fine." And he's just gonna make his way towards the lift again.
Jim's gonna watch the door for another second after Lau's continued towards the lift before following after him.
As you leave, you hear noise.
Okay.
Don't worry about what's there. It's fine. So good.
Chifley's just like, okay. Lau's got some weird neighbors. Oh boy.
Oh, Chiffers. If only it were a neighbor.
I mean,
Phoenix is actually a very cool neighbor. But anyway, yeah, take the lift down, I presume. And I'm just gonna fast travel us to where we're going. Chifley can roll a survival if he likes to see if he's able to track where they're going.
Okay.
That's
I
up
can
to
do
you.
that. I will roll one of those. I will also say that while they were in transit, Chifley is oh, Chif, that's not very good. That's not a good survival. It's above a 10. It's a 12, so that's okay. But Chif is going to, as they're heading to wherever Lau is taking him, just make the remark of, I like your outfit. It suits you.
I'll just blinks a couple of times as he's moving along, and he just kind of looks over at Chifley and says, thank you, I suppose it's... and kind of looks down at it and just looks back at Chifley. Well, it's more so... I kept getting people asking me to put some clothes on for some strange reason. I know it's typical for people to wear clothes, and kind of roll his eyes, but it's not something I'm incredibly fond of doing. And if I have to wear something, I'd rather it be something like this. He just kind of gestures down at that. But I suppose, thank you.
Well, it's the first time I've seen you wear anything. I mean, your blankets kind of count, but no, it's nice.
Now just kind of shifts, and you see like some of the curls on his head just kind of like plink plink. He's just like, yes, well. He just kind of shrugged their clothes, I suppose. The person who made it was very good at it, actually. They were quite swift on delivery. Usually, from what I'm aware of tailors, they tend to take a little longer, depending on who you ask. But no, the person who made this was actually rather quick on the job. So I'm rather happy with it. He does give a little quirk of a smile on his beak as they keep going on.
Jif doesn't say anything more on the topic unless Lau continues the conversation, but he's just like, yep, that's nice. I've not seen you wear that before. I like it.
He doesn't know how to converse very well. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. This is a doesn't day. So I will say, as the scene transitions, we go from the busy urban landscape of Toontown towards the outer districts, the more quiet districts, the typical suburban districts with the big houses and the nice lawns, and some places have like little wagons, some people have big sporty flash cars. It's a strange mix of like ye olde D&D typical manor houses and like 1990s suburban movie white picket fence and Toyotas.
Amazing.
Sorry, Toyotas. We get to that kind of a neighborhood, and then we get to a point where there is a very steep hill, a very steep road going up a steep hill.
Mhm.
And if you want, could you? I'm gonna roll for Lau as well. Roll me in athletics.
Okay. Oh, oh, oh dear. Oh dear.
Oh, I
Ah.
love you, Lau. Oh, Lau.
Oh my god, that's a zero.
For everyone listening, I rolled a nat 1. I have a -1. I've got a fucking 0 in athletics.
Chip got an 8. Chip didn't do very well either, but it's not a 0 at least.
Oh god. I feel like Chifley struggles. I feel like Chifley would have struggled normally, but he struggled even worse now because he initially was sort of okay walking up, and then he just hears a oh for fuck's sake, poof. And if you turn around, I'm gonna see the wheelchair has tipped onto its back, and now it's just fucking sort of stunned sitting there. It's just like the Lau doesn't typically do the tune emotes of like dot dot dots or exclamation marks or anything, or sparkle effects, but you do see him slowly raise a hand up and then slam it back down on the arm of his wheelchair, and you hear him curse in another language. You don't know what he's saying, but sure, you know it's a curse.
Yep. Chifley doesn't know any additional languages apart from the ones he gets from being attuned, so yep. That's great. He definitely doesn't know it.
My suggestion would be Chifley struggled so much because he has to help Lau get up again, and then he feels like, would Chifley feel like he'd have to push Lau up the hill?
Or if that suggesting as such gave Lau a distinct discomfort, which I feel like it may have, Chif would have at the very least offered to
Yes.
walk behind him so that he could stop the chair from toppling over if that has to happen again. Mind you, that Chif probably wouldn't actually even suggest to push just to help stabilize because he knows that he is a weak little twink. So he is a neg too. He's not a strong boy and he appreciates this, but he would definitely offer to help stop Lau from tipping backwards again. So he'd be at least walking behind Lau's chair.
Alright. Well, I feel like Lau, at this point, Lau's just gonna not fucking even bother trying to. He probably won't accept you pushing the chair, but he will accept you standing behind. And I feel like you've had to catch him quite a few times where he's just suddenly rolled back all of a sudden.
Yep.
Like and all the time he's just muttering, for fuck's sake, why isn't it gripping properly? He's just muttering to himself as he tries to go up. But we do eventually get to the top of this hill. Chifley, I'm sorry, dude. You will have some cold sweats. That was a lot of exercise. Now, meanwhile, you're gonna see that his outline seems to just be like shaking, sort of spiky, but also it seems to be thinner than it is, and there seems to be like little black puffs coming out of it as he just like, right, that is never usually that arduous. I don't know why that was so much of a struggle. It's usually a lot easier going up that. I don't know why I struggled so much with it today. And you can roll an insight on that if you want.
Okay.
But whilst you're doing that, You also look around. You're in a cul-de-sac sort of area at the moment. One of those big closed neighborhoods. And Lau is heading over towards an alleyway. Three.
Chif's good at insight.
You look at him, and you can tell immediately. Yeah, no, there's definitely a reason that he is struggling with strength based stuff today. You think, huh? I mean, you don't think Lau's the most athletic of lads, anyhow, but just he says he doesn't know what's going on. You think that's bull. That there's something probably, but you also know Lau is a stubborn ass. Tends not to talk about these things.
Yeah. Yeah, he has come to realize this about his friend Lau.
I mean, he's really subtle about it. He tries to keep it on the down low. Um, yes. Anyhow, yes. Hello, dogs. I hear you whining. Um, so yeah, if you are you gonna follow Lau because he's
Yep.
just heading down what seems to be an alleyway in this cul-de-sac.
Mhm.
Okay. You follow Lau through these alleyways. It's a lot of twisting, a lot of turning, a lot of winding through. You follow him through many of these alleyways going behind these houses, and slowly more trees start to pop up, and the tall fences start to get a little shorter and a little shorter until finally you allow exit out into another road, in which he kind of looks left and right, turns left, heads towards a large wooden archway of some sort. Um, and as you go up, you can't quite read the writing on this tall wooden arch. It seems to have something written on it, but you can't quite read it. Um, he makes his way underneath, and then we follow both of them down a winding, sort of like a mountain path, except this isn't a mountain. This is just kind of hugging the side of a hill as it descends, and it's kind of going like a little spiral as you go down.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
get to the bottom. There's a bit of there's a pathway, but it's kind of overgrown with brush. Lau pushes through that, and if you follow him through, um, could you roll me another perception, please?
Sure.
As he comes through and he says, "Well,
Chifley.
I know we discussed having some locations in a park or some such manner. However, I felt again this is me presuming things. Okay, yeah, lovely. That's a wonderful 9 for perception." Laos just continue saying, I probably should have consulted you a bit more in terms of the area. However, I wasn't aware quite how what exactly the requirements were in terms of worship slash sacredness of it all. So I thought perhaps having a quieter place than a public park would be better to start with. And if you wanted to move it somewhere else, then we can. But well, what do you think of this? And he kind of gestures out. Um, And the first thing we see, Chifley, is a very large pond. Almost like it's a pond. So it's a big pond, but it slightly verges on a lake. Um, and on your right, there's a tall cliff face, very rocky, mountainous kind of cliff face with an overhang. Um, and there's a large swathe of land kind of sweeping around to the left of this little lake pond. And there's just it seems to be like a little sandy petition between the water and the land that slowly slopes downwards. With a 9, that is all you can get. But yeah, it sure is. It's a quiet place. You don't know how far away from Toontown, or even if you're in Toontown at the moment, but yeah, Lau is suggesting this place, and he's
Chif's
kind of just
got
looking at you. Um,
Chif's got a
mhm.
little bit of the anime sparkles in his eyes. Like he doesn't do the full Ghiblian sparkle fluff thing because he's not Ghiblian, but he's got a little bit of the anime sparkle happening in his eyes as he's looking at it. It's
Excellent.
it's beautiful.
Lau just looks at Chifley for a couple of seconds, and yes, it's rather removed. It's out of the way. The only reason I found this actually was because of Soul, and quirks a little grin. I had to rather had to chase Soul down for a few things, and I enlisted the help of, well, I should say help. They actually took something of someone else's, and well, we ended up here. And it is a rather nice. It's a nice quiet spot. Rather good for reflection, and well, if anyone is going to have a shrine here, he just kind of shrugs and looks at you and says, I mean, if you wanted somewhere to have a shrine, this would be a good place to start.
I think this would be a great place for it. The shrine that I looked after at home was probably about as long of a walk away from where I live. So this is perfect.
Lau gives a quick nod and just looks around and says, yes, well, at least you'll be getting some sort of daily exercise then instead of being cooped up inside. And he's gonna start making his way to the left where there's a big clear space. And he's gonna call out behind him. I'm not sure where exactly you want to put the shrine. I don't know if you would rather have it under the cliff face, nearer the water, somewhere in the fielded area, or perhaps across where the greenhouse is. And he's just gonna kind of, yeah, just gonna kind of show you around, I guess.
Jeff's gonna just follow after him as he's gonna give him the grand tour. And eventually he'll pick a spot kind of near the water, but also like under some trees a little bit. I think here would be nice. It's not going to get too much sun, and I feel as though that's important for me these days.
Nels nods its head, no acknowledgement. And I will say, as you kind of make your way around, Lau will show you that on the opposite side of the lake, there is actually a very old, broken greenhouse. If you were to look inside, it's got lots of wild berries have now started to grow into it. There's a few potatoes, tomatoes, and such, but you can tell that however long this thing has been here, nature is definitely starting to creep back in, make itself known. Yeah, Lau just kind of listened and said, right, well then, I suppose the first thing is materials. Let me just, and he is going to roll hammer space. Oh, kind of reaches underneath, folds of his sari. When I say folds of his sari, I don't mean like the dress end. I mean underneath the collarbone. So he just basically reaches into one of his collars, and he pulls out like a fucking bit by bit. He pulls out chunks of wood. And I'm not talking about like stuff you get at a DIY shop. I'm talking logs. Like he just pulls out logs, plonks them on the floor. And Chifley, I don't know how much you know about logs, but you can clearly tell these logs are all from different kinds of trees. They don't seem to have been gotten from the same place.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Well, it's quite a selection. I don't actually. I would not know the difference between these.
Now, the curls on his head just kind of twinged a little bit, and he looks at you and says, well, most of them have different grains and effects and colorations. I'm not exactly a carver of sorts. I'm certainly no expert in that matter. That would be more Uncle Coop's territory. After all, he did and he kind of taps the side of his wheelchair. He did carve this out for me. So I'm not a carver, but I can. You can try at least, and he's starting to look at these logs, and I think it's just kind of settling in to him that he's like, oh wait, hang on, now I've lost the carvers. Um, this is gonna be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy. Just gonna nod and then just sort of give them another look over, and I'm gonna assume there's one that's kind of like a birch sort of one.
Oh yeah,
And so yeah, he's
there
gonna
are
pick
woods
that.
of all different colours and like
All right.
they're all raw wood.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have not been trimmed down or anything. It's like literally someone just cut a log off of a tree. Um, but yes, they're all raw materials.
Great.
Um,
I think yeah, Chip's gonna pick a nice either like a light birch, or if there's one that's sort of like a silvery white kind of wood, he'll point at that. That one.
yeah,
Okay.
no. Oh god, Lau. Sorry, give me a second. I'm just rolling a couple things for him. So that's that. Oh god. Okay. Uh, so that is a 20. Not a nat 20, sorry. That is
A dirty
modified
20.
20.
Yep.
And then this is fucking this is deception of a 5. Chifley, you look over at Lau and you see the dawning realization on his face of I have another way of doing this so much better. But I can't let on. I can't let on that I fucked up. Just gotta tone down. He's just like, yes, of course. If you just choose which material you'd like, and then we can set it out from there. I do have more. I do have more in my home space. Should you require some? These are just a few examples. He just starts kind of reaching out for the logs and putting them, trying to like pull them over and put them back in his hammer space. I'm gonna roll a strength check for that. God, you wimpy man. You absolute wimpy man. You absolute wimpy man.
Oh, how beloved. Oh my gosh. Okay, Chifley is absolutely going to help. Chifley is absolutely going to help, which can only go badly because his modifier is worse than Lau's, but let's see what happens.
Advantage or disadvantage?
Let's just roll once and see what happens and go from there.
Oh
my fucking god.
That one.
No! That was a nat 20!
Holy shit.
Oh, Chifley.
Okay, this is gonna be really funny at work. This is gonna be really funny. Where one of them is just so wimpy weak they cannot lift something up, and then the other person just kind of lifts it up with ease.
Oh.
Chifley, you don't know why Lau is struggling with these logs. They're sturdy, but they're not super heavy. I don't know. Maybe it's just how the wood's been grown or something. That this wood isn't super heavy.
Jeff's just like decidedly not commenting on that. Like, oh, Lau struggled on the hill, and Lau struggled with this. What's up? How do I ask?
Struggles.
Oh, he's having a struggle day. Oh dear.
You've chosen the white wood. Cool. I'm actually going to do something that Lau can do, and I keep forgetting he has this ability. I'm gonna have him do this. Okay. Your passive perception's a 14, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Cool. You do see him reach into the folds of his again, his collarbone. No, that was no D. That was no D. I need a D, please. Cool.
It's still a 10.
And it doesn't matter. You see him reach into the folds of his fabric again, pull something out, and mutter something under his breath. Let's see. And he's basically just going to use one of his channel divinity options, which is starting at 2nd level, I can tap into a divine well of knowledge, and I become proficient in one skill or tool for about 10 minutes.
Nice.
So
that's cool.
Basically, you see him pull out a little amulet. It's a little bronze thing. You can't quite tell the shape of it. And he mutters something, and then he puts it back into his robe, and he just, right, well, hopefully this should give us a bit more of an advantage. And he claps his hands together and says, right, so I don't know if you wanted to assist with this, or if you wanted to settle on gathering other materials or anything else you can think of in your hammer space you want to add to this. Any wards or any sort of protective anythings that you desired.
Well, I've never made something like this myself before. I suppose something to protect it against, I don't know, graffiti and such things if someone were to come against it, but surely someone wouldn't deface a shrine, would they?
Give me a second.
He's an innocent boy.
This is funny for a very particular reason.
What was that?
Say if you want. Now just nods and says, yes, no, I can't imagine. Firstly, I can't imagine anyone would come out of their way to find this place just to deface a shrine. That would be. Although there are hoodlums, I can understand wanting to.
If that was a deception, you can't hide shit.
Oh. you see a slight. There's like a twitch of a curl, and you do make out the slightest hint of a wince as Lau kind of squeaks his eyes shut a little. You see a sunlight hit a guilt. Just it's clear for you, but there is a slight feeling of guilt on his face. But he shakes it off very quickly and says, I can't imagine anyone would go out of their way to deface a shrine like that. It would not be it would not be very it wouldn't be very kind, especially in some place like this. Unless they had something against your god, in which I could maybe understand that. But anyhow, yes, I don't think we can set this up if you'd like, but I don't think there's going to be anyone coming out here. But, no, we should probably set things up for weather as well. Perhaps other protections and such, just to make sure that there are. What's the word? That there are no potentials for this thing to become corrupt, because corrupted shrines can be an issue in some places.
Do you want to roll an insight on Chifley?
Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh, you'll never guess what I got. Oh, you'll never guess what I got. Thank you, Lau. You are full of wisdom today, aren't you, buddy?
That one. Oh, it's just low. Okay.
Not a nat one, but yeah, man, he's seeing today, isn't he?
Apparently. Chifley pointedly hasn't made any comment about, like, in response to the corrupted shrine. There's a bit of a blink, but he hasn't said anything.
Okay, it's fine. It's fine. It's all good. He's just gonna continue on. And he's just gonna pick up that white log that you chose, and he's just gonna kind of I'm not gonna roll hammer space for this. I'm just gonna say he pulls out more logs from his hammer space of the same colour and hue, and just kind of plops them down and says, I didn't know if you wanted to try and whittle these or carve these in any manner. If you don't, that's perfectly fine. If there are other things you'd like to do, such as gathering, I don't know, other materials around here, or if there was any particular parts you wanted to set up, that's up to you. It is your shrine, after all.
I can't say that I've got any particular skill in working with wood, so I feel like I might make a mess of it and waste the material.
Now just nods and says, that's fair enough. Well, you have come into some different sort of powers of your own. He kind of wiggles his fingers at you. With all your secret sorcery. So if you wanted to try and do something with that, really, well, put your mark on this shrine, as it were, then feel free.
Oh, Chifley is doing a think now. He's got his arms folded over his chest, and he looks very thoughtful. It's like, huh. He's having a good old think.
Cool. Let me just roll to see how well Lao does whittling. Ow. No, I'm rolling this with advantage. No, I'm not accepting that. Yes. Yes. Good. So I had to roll with advantage because he has actually had some he technically doesn't have proficiency or expertise in this. He's been granted it through divine guidance. But also he has actually got an uncle that made this wheelchair, and he has, hung out with this guy enough to know some basics of this. So at first I rolled a 2, and then I rolled a nat 20.
Damn.
So yeah. You see Lau pick up these woods, and you see him actually pull his dagger out from the side of one of the pouches along the side of his wheelchair, which you've probably noticed is an Everfrost dagger. Big old ice knife. You see him just kind of stab at it occasionally, and then kind of like rip chunks off of it, and then he's just like, for fuck's sake, okay. He looks over his shoulder at you and just holds it up and says, "This is a practice log. I am practicing and trying to remember the technique my uncle used. So this will probably end up being waste, but we have enough to make do with it." And he's just going to be kind of like stabbing and hacking at this log for a bit.
Okay, fair enough.
Don't know what Chifley's want to do.
What Chifley is going to do is he's going to roll his hammer space first of all. If I can remember what my D10 looks like. Looks like it. Yep, that's a 9, so that's fine. So he's gonna be pulling things out of his hammer space, and he's actually brought an awful lot of like blue paint of various different shades of blue.
Ooh.
And he's just sort of, because he brought everything that he thought might be useful, even though he has no skill in it. So he's just like, okay, these are Missy's paints, so I brought those, and I brought paintbrushes. It's like, what else could I use? And just so he just starts sort of pulling things for decorating stuff out. And that's all he does initially, and then after a little while he's just gonna sit there and watch Lau work for a bit.
Whilst you've been distracted getting everything out, and you turn back, you do see like some mutilated wood chunks across the floor. They look like someone has not taken an axe but a very small butter knife to a tree and slowly just hacked away at it until it's fallen apart in the ground. Then you kind of look at the other logs, or the other parts, and Lao is actually kind of, see, he's kind of kept the white bark skin, like the outer layer on it, but he somehow cut it in a manner that, yeah, he's getting some nice actual, he's worked very quickly on whittling these down. Despite the fact he's not using an axe and is just using a dagger. But you do see him pierce through the wood at one point, and then you see him make a strange motion with his hand, and you can hear like the creaking of the wood. And you can actually see ice is starting to split down the middle of this as he slices through one of the logs. I do know this is not how this works, but this is Fantasy Realm, and this is how I say it works now. And it just kind of cleanly slices through. And any like splinters or shavings in the middle of the center of the wood gets quickly hacked off of the ice. It just kind of smoothed down very quickly and efficiently. There's a decent bundle of logs for you to use to set this thing up. And Lau just with a sigh just kind of puts his knife on his lap and just dusts his hands off and says, "Oh, Uncle Coop would be rather. Actually, Uncle Coop would say he could do it triple the pace and get twice the load, but..." And he shrugs and says, "Well, we've got our logs at least," and turns to look at Chifley. "What exactly have, that's a lot of... That's paint, right, okay, that's of course you want paint of some sort.
Just sort of rubs the back of his head a little awkwardly.
These two are just incredibly awkward. Just how they are. And Lau kind of stops and thinks. He's just, right, now usually there'd be some sort of hammers and nails involved in this. However, I have a different method that only if you would be comfortable me using this method.
What kind of method is it?
Well, actually, you know what? Maybe we should actually clear the area first. The area that you wanted, and then we can talk about that. And he just kind of quickly heads over to a spot that you pointed, a vague spot you pointed to earlier, and says, "So was it around here you wanted it, or was it over there that you wanted it?" And he just starts talking.
Chifley is going to tilt his head to one side and roll it inside.
You can tell that this is probably related to the thing earlier where he realized, oh wait, we can do this a different way. You kind of get the impression this is either a way to cover that up, or it's maybe some kind of nervousness. You're not quite sure why, but there is a bit of nerves going on here as well. But yeah, he is just dashing around at the minute, trying to get your opinion on where exactly you want this thing situated.
Okay. I think Chip's gonna head over to the spot that he had in mind in particular, which is currently very nicely shaded by a nearby tree. And he's just gonna sort of stand there and point at the ground. I thought here would be nice.
Now looks around the area, just kind of nods and says, "Right, okay, if you want it here. Give me just a moment, and let me just see. Has he got something? There is something he can do. I'm just trying to find the thing that he can do. Where is it? Oh, he doesn't have the thing I thought he had. Okie doke. Oh wait, does he? No, he doesn't. That's thaumaturgy, not pre-recitation. Okay. Cool. Cool. He doesn't have the thing. I thought he did. No, yes he does. Yes he does. Okay, cool. So Lau's just gonna kind of rub his hands together. And then he's going to look at you and say, so I'm not sure what spells you have access to, or if you know what you can do, like this, kind of gestures up and down. I'm not sure how much you've played around with your new abilities.
Well, I some of my spells definitely have changed, and I can do some things that I couldn't do before, and some things that don't really feel like spells, but I can't really control that.
Sorry if you heard a cargo by in the background.
Okay.
The last I heard was I can't really do spells.
No, he said, like, I've got new spells, and there's some things that don't feel like spells, but he can't control them.
Okay. Mel's just going to give a slow nod at that. Then he's going to look at these bits of wood. And then he's going to look at the wood chunks around, and he's going to look at Chifley and say, So you don't have to do this if you would rather not do it this way, but I'm going to ask you to do something. Could you do me a favour, and all those spare chunks, would you mind just sort of putting them all together and freezing them up for me? Just so I can deal with them a little easier later, instead of having to collect them all. At least they'll be in one solid chunk.
I can try. And he's going to ponder this for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Chif, how you want to go about this, buddy? Okay, so we're talking like small little chips of wood and like sawdust and stuff, yeah?
So there is small chips of wood and sawdust, but there's also the great hacking like it is just one log's worth, but there's just like chunks, loggy chunks,
Mm-hmm.
just.
Okay. So in that case, he's gonna just sort of move the. I'm gonna roll him a strength because it's funny. Um. Of course. It is going to take him some effort to move the bigger bits together. Like, it takes him a while. And then he actually just sort of. I'm gonna roll him his space. It's not a one. He takes his little wand out and just sort of flicks it at the smaller bits and the sawdust and stuff. Um, and puffs of wind sort of floof it into a nice pile with all of the big bits once he eventually gets them all together. And then he's going to sit there and just sort of think about it as hard as he can. Okay, it's like, okay, I am deliberately going to be doing something ice-based now. And then he's
I'm
just
gonna
going to
be.
ray of frost at it.
Cool. I'm not gonna have you roll to hit. I'm not. I'm not that fucking mean. So it would be up to you if you wanted to roll anything to see how well it goes. I don't know.
I'll roll the D8
Mm.
to see how much ice gets in there. Like, he can try again because this is just a cantrip, but that is a 1. It's just this little.
Oh,
So he's just gonna. And that's a 4. It doesn't make that noise, but I can't think what a noise it would make. So he's just sort of making this nice little ice cube in little delicate bits because he's still trying to figure out how these spells work.
oh, buddy. Meanwhile, I'm just gonna roll something for Lau because Oh, okay, that's fine. Interesting. How long would you say Chifley's at that for?
Given as he rolled a 6 on the strength check to move the big pieces, a
Mhm.
good while. Like, I don't remember there being that many, so maybe like 15 minutes or so.
Okay. Mm, okay. Okay. Hmm. All right. Okay.
Hello, puppy. Out of the way. Goodbye.
I'll probably be a cat.
Desk.
Thank you. Chifley, whilst you're doing that, you're gonna hear some mutterings and some swinging of like as Lau presumably starts to clear the area.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're gonna hear the sound of his chair go behind you, and then a splashing noise. And then come back towards where you were. And then you're gonna hear you're gonna hear like a right. Right, okay, I think I'm gonna have to call them, aren't I? Ugh. And Chifley, do you wanna roll me a con save?
Con save. Goody. What's your con? Oh, you don't have any modifiers to this. That is a 4.
Oh, Chifley, you hear a piercing whistle that I can't do at the moment. I used to be able to do it, but at the moment my throat won't let me. You hear a piercing whistle all of a sudden go through the clearing. And Lau has basically just lifted his head up and kind of shrieked. Yeah, Lau's just kind of lifted his head back and shrieked at the sky.
I think his chip rolled so badly, and he wasn't expecting that. So he just sort of he's making his little delicate little. Oh yeah, I'm doing ice magic, cool. And then he just sort of has that shudder go all the way up his back at that noise and drops his wand. It's just like, ah. And like,
What the hell is that?
I think that startled half of the color out of his hair as well.
Oh my
So
god!
like, it's half white now. It'd be shocks of white through, and he's just like, and then slowly turns to look at Lau.
Lao's not looking at you. He's just tilted his head back to look at the sky, and then he slowly lowers his head and just. Well, I don't think we can actually do any more at the moment. I've given someone a shout, so I think for now it might be best if we just sat down for a little while until they arrive. Won't be able to do much else until they do get here. He kind of looks at you and looks around and just he looks very awkward as he's just like, don't quite know what you want to do whilst we wait, but I did actually bring some, and he's gonna roll hammer space again. Oh, that's a mangled hammer space. Oh, it's a 2. He's rummaging for a bit. He pulls out what seems to be some sort of wicker basket. Not like a picnic basket, but it's just like a wicker basket, and it's got like fruits in it. It's got like some little boxes of stuff. Like some grasses kind of woven together in bundles kind of deal. And he just kind of like pops that down. I'm gonna roll again, because has he got it? Yeah. He reaches back in and he pulls out a blanket that he tends to use, like the one he usually wears. He pulls that out and kind of lays that out on the floor and gestures for you and says, feel free to pick at those if you'd like. I had something to eat earlier. I'll be fine. But do pick at that. And he's just sort of graciously gesturing at the stuff on the ground. This man does not know how to socialize, Your Honor.
Oh dear, oh dear. I think Chip's gonna look down at the stuff and then look back up at Lao. Thank you, Lao. You're already going to such effort for me. I really appreciate it.
Lao gives you a little confused look. He's like, well, if we're going to be making something, of course we are going to need food and some sort of liquid intake. That won't impair our ability to actually do things. Thank you, Uncle Chifley. But you don't have to thank me. I offered to do this months ago, and we've only just gone around to doing it because of things. He waves a hand in the air. So it's fine.
Well, if you ever need anything from me, I'll offer in return. I'd be happy to help should you need me.
Now just kind of looks at Chifley for a little while and then just, oh, take that into consideration. Thank you, Chifley, but there isn't a need to pay me back for this.
Life is not always about what we need to do. Sometimes it's about what we want to do.
Gosh. I'm not gonna roll deception. You see a look across Lao's face. As he looks across the pond. It's just, yes, well, not many people can live the way they want.
I suppose not. You seem to bring a slice of home into town.
Sorry, could you say that again?
Oh yeah, he said you seem to make do. You bring a slice of home into town.
Now just kind of that was an additional bonus, yes, but that was mostly for Soul's benefit rather than mine. Soul, I don't know if you've noticed, but they do tend to be a little wild's not the term. Although it is the term, but not quite the term. What's the term? They're not used to living in populated areas, or at least not somewhere they can't just come and go as they please. They're used to woodlands, they're used to forestry, they're used to more nature than Toontown alone can provide. And as he says this, he's just absentmindedly reaching into the basket, pulling out a lime, and just kind of like chewing on the edge of it, just kind of nibbling on the rind as he speaks.
The last time I asked you how you ended up in Toontown, you wouldn't tell me.
Did I not? And he just kind of looks over Chifley and just, well, let's just say I'm looking for something. And have been looking for something for a little while. And think I'm a little closer to finding it than I was before, at least from what I've noticed.
If you find it, when you leave.
Al kind of pauses and well, I will have to go back home. I do want to go back home. I've rather overextended my stay in Inkwell as it is. He just kind of scratches side of his neck. It's Inkwell has many strange and different things to offer, but it's not quite home. It's not where my family is.
Where are they?
What was that?
Where are they?
Uh um now looks over and said, "Oh, well, I don't know if I ever told you, but I was born and raised in Fruma, in the northeastern mountains. It's a it's a very it's a very wonderful place if you like nature. If you're more of a city person, I would not recommend it. And oh, we have some interesting creatures around there that not many people have heard of. Ah, it's well, it's no Inkwell. Inkwell is good in its own right, but it is home.
I've never been to Faruma. Gosh, that is quite some way away. You miss it a lot?
Well, oh, you don't have to roll insight. You can just see he gets a very faraway look on his face as wind, a gentle wind, just kind of scuttles gently across the water and leaves little ripples as Lau speaks. Yes, I suppose. It's not about place so much, although the place is in of itself beautiful. It's tall mountain ranges. There's dwarves have White Rapid River they like to sail down. There's mines that I grew up with. There's the community. There's the people I grew up with. It's the people that are. It's the people you miss. The place might hold memories, but people. There aren't people like them and I out here. It's very different.
Mm. I think I can understand that. Missy and I don't have any family back to the school. While the place was beautiful and we know lots of people there, it almost doesn't have anything for us anymore. Whereas here, we have friends, we have family, we've got so many different things. I do miss the score sometimes, but not enough to go back.
Now just gives a gentle nod. The thing, if a place doesn't offer you what you need, what you want, if it's some place that has caused you place that's caused you grief and you need to find somewhere else that is better for you. And, well, it's rather glad you found somewhere you feel that is more so a home for you.
Chief
Though
offers
I
a
have
smile at that. But, like, he still seems a little introspective.
That's just gonna kind of nod, take another crunch of the lime that he's been munching on. And he kind of look up a bit. You know, I haven't actually been to the school before. I'm. And he kind of looks over at Chifley and he looks away. He's just roll. Let's roll with save, buddy. Yeah. Okay. He kind of looks over at Chifley and he begins to open his mouth and then he just clicks it shut and turns away and it's just, oh, well, perhaps one day you'd want to go and visit. It might be nice to go over old stomping grounds for yourself, after all. Even if you don't stay.
I was getting a very pointed look. Chifley heard that start of something. He's like, you don't have to guard yourself around me if you don't want to. If you've got something to say, then say it.
Lau thinks a couple times. One of the curls on the back of his head just kind of twitches. Just. Well, right, if you want something direct. I've never been to the school. You have. And I would like to go to the school. Should you ever want to go back, I wouldn't be averse to. Unless it's a family trip, of course, then I'd understand and I'd let your family get on with it. But it would be nice to see the school and have someone to show you around. After all, it's never as fun visiting somewhere as a tourist when you can have a local who knows all the good spots. And with that, he's just going to quickly shove the rest of the lime in his mouth and very loudly start chewing.
Chifley is grinning. Like, he looks pretty pleased about that entire set of sentences.
Lau's arms are crossed and he's pointedly looking away.
Chif, are you going to be a gremlin? Are you going to be a gremlin?
Chif, be a gremlin. Let him do
I'm going to roll a D2. 1 yes, 2 no. Chip's gonna be a gremlin. Chip has picked up his wand from where he dropped it earlier while he's sitting on this blanket, and he's just gonna, on the side of him opposite Lau, he's just gonna give it a little bit of a twirl in his fingers, and then he's gonna cast prestidigitation on that lime that Lau's eating and change the flavor of it. So that it tastes like a pomegranate.
Also, it tastes sweet?
Yeah.
I don't actually know the flavors of pomegranates.
Okay, let's go with like a blood orange or something. So it's still quite tart, but it's a completely different flavor.
Fun! Now, busy chewing this lime, he crunches down, and it suddenly tastes like a blood orange, and he's just like, he just lifts one of his hands up to his mouth and just, what the fuck? What the fuck? He just coughs in his hand. He just kind of flicks the rest of the lime into the lake with the sploosh, and he's just like, what the fuck was that? That was the fuck was that?
Let me roll a deception. Oh my goodness, what's your deception, Chifley?
What's it, Chifley? Beautiful. And
Inside, he's laughing. No, does not notice.
Absolutely not. I mean, unless you got like under like a 9 or something, he would not pick up on this anyway. He's too busy being like, "What the fuck just happened?" He's also gonna kind of look around a little suspiciously, and he's gonna cast Detect Good and Evil. Because fuck it, if there's like a fae around here fucking with his food, what about it? And with this, I presume, you know, there's no aberrations, celestials, elementals, fays, or fiends, or undead. So,
well, actually, he gets a ping of an elemental.
huh. He pauses. He looks around very slowly, like, all right. I don't know why that happened. At first, I thought it was a fae. That's not a fae. He's gonna lower his voice. He's gonna whisper to Chifley. Chifley, I don't mean to alarm you, but there may in fact be something here. Maybe should have checked this out before we come. I do apologize, but you may want to get your staff at the ready. And he's very slowly gonna reach back for his ice knife and look around.
Jim's gonna get that. Like he give his little wand a little spin so it turns into his staff. And he's looking around. It's like he's internally going, "Wait, is this a reaction to what I did? Crap." Are you sure?
Positive. I cast something just in case something was fucking with my food, because sometimes that can happen. You'd be surprised how often that happens when you live in the deep woods, and there are all sorts of creatures out there that do like to screw around with people for their own little jollies. I did have someone in my village once get turned into a half goat, but we don't talk about that. I thought something like that was happening, and it turns out it's not a fae. There may be an elemental of some sort around. I'm not sure what kind, but there is one around. You know what? I'm gonna roll an intelligence for him. We'll see how long it takes him.
Okay.
Well, well, well. Okay, and then I'm gonna roll this. Oh, beautiful, Lau. Beautiful. Love you.
Okay.
He kind of whips his ice knife out and he looks around, and then he grips it and he turns towards Chifley and he opens his mouth and then he stops. He looks at his ice knife. He looks at Chifley. He looks at his ice knife. He looks at Chifley. And there's just this look on his face. He's processing something.
Chifley is genuinely looking around just in case. Like, I'm not going to roll something for it because I know there's nothing there. But, like...
Oh. Actually, do roll something.
Okay, what am I rolling?
Perception. Oh,
okay.
Boy.
Oh,
Boy.
Chiv. You're doing spectacularly on insights, but for your perceptions are shocking.
What did you get?
11.
11? Oh, man. You don't get this. Oh, you just about don't get this. Don't worry, you're fine. Yeah. Chifley, you don't see anything, you don't hear anything. Maybe you get like a flash of something in the woods, but that was just a shadow in the trees of some such. That was a squirrel. You're pretty sure that was a squirrel. Maybe you're just being a little paranoid. You don't see anything threatening around.
He's gonna look around, and after determining there's nothing there, he's gonna turn back and look at Lau.
Lau's looking directly at you, and then he's looking at his knife, and he's looking at you. And there's just this resigned sort of, oh, for fuck's sake, look on his face. And he blinks and says, Chifley.
Yeah.
After this, and he gestures up and down at you with his knife, all happened, did you perhaps go to a doctor and get yourself checked out?
No.
I was gonna squint. The curls on his head are gonna tighten a little bit. Chifley, please tell me you saw a doctor after you had a magical transformation and developed some magical new abilities that you didn't know you had. Don't tell me you've just been walking around with your magic without some sort of doctor's examination to ensure that you are alright.
He kind of lowers his staff a little bit and looks really awkward. And Lau knows exactly what that means.
Oh, fucks.
I
Now slowly puts his dagger back in the pouch. Sorry, continue.
spent the first couple of days sleeping, if I'm going to be completely honest, Lau.
That's understandable. You were rather tired and exhausted, and a transformation like that will knock it out of you. That's not what I'm asking you, Chifley. I'm asking you if you've seen a doctor, and he's laced his fingers together, and he is smiling at you, and Chifley, that is the smile of, you better fucking answer with the correct answer here.
He's
You
gonna
better
sort of
see the doctor, Chifley.
he's gonna bite his lip a little bit. I haven't made any official appointments, but I did speak to the archivists, and they assured me that I'm not twice over cursed.
Give me just a moment. Give me just a moment.
Please peg something in his head.
So what's going to happen is Lau reaches underneath the collar of his sari, and he pulls out a long walking cane of sorts, and he plops it on the ground. Roll a strength check.
I think I know where this is going.
That's actually, no, that's not a 0. That's a 10. That is actually a 10. I forgot to add a 1. So he gets up with a little bit of difficulty. And then he looks at you, and he glares at you, Chifley, and he points a finger at the chair. Chifley Forde, get in that fucking chair before I make you get in that fucking chair. What have I told you about seeing a doctor when you are experiencing weird shit?
I'll make an appointment in the morning. You don't have
Oh,
to put me in
sit
your chair.
now. I don't care about the morning. Sit now. And he clicks his fingers, points at the chair. He's gonna glare at you. I told you I'd do this. If it happened again, Chifley Forde. Sit in that fucking chair. The shrine can wait. If you want to know quite so badly why I'm putting you in that fucking chair, it's because Chifley, my magic has picked you up as an elemental, which means you have fundamentally changed. It fundamentally changes what it recognizes you as.
He's going to blink in surprise at that and sort of look down at himself a little bit. Huh.
Honestly, don't know why I was so surprised earlier. Of course you're a bloody elemental. You've turned from, well, person into an icy person. Of course it's an element of sorts, so of course you're going to register as an elemental, and he's just going to kind of rattle off to himself, muttering. And yeah, what's Chifley going to do?
Well, at the moment he's just going to sort of stand there and let Lau go off.
Chifley, do you want to make me a deck save?
I would love to make a deck save. Why are you rolling abysmally on everything except insights today?
That's just how he be.
Apparently.
Yeah, Chifley, before you can do anything, you hear a rustling in the bushes, and something comes towards you. A very quick clip. It tackles you. Into the air. A poof. And as you do this, Lao says, "Ah, Soul, you took your time. And, you... I don't know if you've ever ridden on the back of Soul before, Chifley. Um, you sure are now."
Oh dear, oh dear. I think he would have turned, and in that split second between panic noise and, oh, it's Sol, that's would have all he would have had time to do, and now he's just holding on. Oh.
Well, you kind of go down halfway down this pond before Soul starts to slow a little because they were going at full gallop, and then they kind of make a slow wide circle to come back around towards Lao, and then they just kind of tilt to the side a little and dumps you on the floor. And Lao says, "No, no, no, not on the floor. No, Soul, put them in the chair." And Soul looks down and slowly, give me just a second. They're just gonna reach down and slowly pick Chifley up and pop them on their feet. And just dust their little rooty fan off them to get all the dust off.
Hello, Sol.
Soul wiggles. Whole body wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Outline vibrates. And now it's just gonna... Right, okay then. And he's gonna kind of wiggle back. Not wiggle. He's gonna make his way back over in a slow shuffle towards the area you cleared out. He's call over. Now that Soul's here, finish up whatever you'd like, and once you've finished eating, get in the fucking chair and we'll take you home. And he looks towards Soul and says, "Soul, we've got an area to clear. And I think you might like this one actually. Soul, I saw what you did on the side of the barn. So how about you do that here, hmm?" And Chifley's gonna see Soul perk up, vibrate even more, and bound over to Lao. And Chifley, what are you gonna do?
I think Chifley is going to, actually, let me roll a d2. Yeah, okay. He is actually going to be obedient, and he's going to very awkwardly sit in Lau's chair, and I'm going to roll him another deck save to see how competent he is with wheelchair. And hopefully he's more competent than me in my dice rolling ability.
Dice go bye-bye.
I threw it on the floor, and I'm going to keep that roll. Thank you so much. Yes, that was a good roll. So I'm going to keep that. Thank you.
It was a floor roll.
It was a floor roll, but I'm keeping it.
Yes.
Because it's a dirty 20. So he doesn't
Nice.
completely tip out of this wheelchair. But I think once he has identified that he has no idea what Soul is going to be doing, he is going to just sort of sit in Lau's chair and then maybe give it a few little... Like, he's going to try and roll it around a little bit because he's never been in a wheelchair before. This is a new thing. So he's just sort of like, oh, I wonder how this works. And so he's like moving the wheels and moving one and then the other and just sort of... I don't know if you've ever sat in a wheelchair before, but it's just that, oh, how does this work?
Interesting. This is new. Look at this sound. If I have, it was when I was very, very young, and I don't think I was allowed to like move it myself. But yes, gosh. Chifley, whilst you're having fun in the wheelchair, Lao kind of looks over towards Soul, and Soul looks at Lao, and there's like a moment of silence. Soul nods, vibrates. They're gonna rear back onto their back legs. Then they're gonna slam their front feet into the ground, in the clearing that you've chosen, and they're gonna cast Mold Earth.
Ooh, nice.
First. Basically, clear the area out and smooth it down and make it easier to, do things. Then Lao's just gonna, yes, well done, good job. Right, so next thing is and he's gonna give Soul a big old grin. He's gonna say, "You see those over there?" He points at the logs. What you're going to do is you're going to put those together. And Soul vibrates. Go on then, off you go. Soul just boings over to where the stack of wood is, picks them up, wiggles back over, plops them on the ground. Still kind of just wiggling and vibrating. And then, Chifley, you're going to see Soul strike their roots into the ground again, and you're going to see Soul's going to cast something. I've done this before. It's a very fun way to use this spell. I've cast. They're going to cast Entangle.
Oh,
And what you're going to see, it's a weird mix of. No, it's not a weird mix. It's just Entangle. So you're going to see nothing for a second. Nothing's going to happen. There's just like wood planks piled up on the floor. Um, as Soul is doing whatever they're doing, Lowie's going to call back, Chifley. For this part, I think you may actually want to. I think you may want to put your little finishing touches here. So, kind of gestures for you to come over.
I think Chif would make a few efforts at trying to push the wheelchair over there because he was told to sit down. But then I'm going to roll him another dex to see if he can get out without falling on his face. He stumbles a bit. But it's not that graceful, but it's graceful enough that he didn't fall over. And then he's going to trot over.
Cool. And as you trot over, you do notice that Soul has plunged their front roots into the ground, and the logs from before, there's like vines and things bursting from the ground, and they're grasping the logs, and they seem to be moving them into certain positions and then just kind of growing out and then plunging them a little bit back into the ground. And then the earth is sort of molding towards the woods, and then vines creep up and they pierce through each side of the wood and they lock it together, and then they plunge another post to the ground, lock it together, and you're slowly seeing the rough shape of the shrine come together. It is very, very rough, because Sol was just told to put these things together. And then Lao kind of looks at you and says, so it is obviously incredibly rough. We can work on these over the I'm not expecting this all to get done in one day. We can work on this over the course of a few days whenever you're free. But Sol has, well, made it mostly structurally sound for the most part, and he knocks on wood. And he turns towards Chippy and says, so I didn't know if you wanted to add anything of your own to it. And he gives you a bit of a little smirk and looks rather pointedly at yourself.
Chifley will go and stand in front of this rough structure that Sol has put together for him, and he'll think about it, and he's sort of playing with his staff a little bit. I wish I had a better control over this magic, but maybe. And he just sort of starts idly drawing in the dirt in front of this structure, and he does Lau want to roll an Arcana?
Ooh, what is your Arcana? I don't think it's great. Oh, it's not terrible. But yeah, that's a 13.
Okay, well, 13 is good enough to know that Chif's drawing some sort of magic circle in the dirt. And when he sort of finishes drawing that, and then he looks back over at this structure, and he starts walking around it, and he just sort of running his hand along the rough wood, and Lau can see the trail of frost building on the ice as his fingers trail building on the wood, sorry, as his fingers trail over it. Mechanically he's casting frostbite.
Yes. We say screw the mechanics. I'm casting Entangle. It doesn't work this way, but we are doing it this way.
Yeah. And so Chifley just sort of runs his hand along the wood, along like the lack of a better word, the eave on the side of the roof, and then reaches up and touches the ridge pole a little bit, like the top of the roof, and then eventually gets back around to the front. And then there's this moment where he's just sort of tapping his staff against the side of his leg, and then he kind of sighs, and there's a little bit of a flurry of cold air and a burst of snow, and then the wood ends up being covered in snow, and Chifley's just sort of standing there going, "That's not what I was hoping for. Whoops." He just sort of goes over and starts trying to brush some of this unseasonal snow off of this little building.
As you do that, I think Sol just about finishes lifting their roots out of the ground with like a crook crook. And now looks at what you've done and gives a little nod and says, "Yes, well, that's that is certainly a touch of you in this."
I suppose so. And then he just sort of gives the side of the building a little bit of a tap, and then there's a tick tick choof as the snow kind of just falls off. You know how like it'll fall off a slanted roof in this
Yes,
sheet.
just
Just so it goes
yeah.
shoo, poof. And then it
Sol's
just
gonna kind of like jump up and then look over, look at Lau, and then look at Chifley, and then look over. And Lau's gonna look at Sol and just, "Sol, you don't have to," and then Sol's just gonna go over and they're gonna stick their roots in it. You're gonna see the snow slowly turn to like icy sleep as Sol takes as much moisture out of it as it can.
bless. Chip's going to be understandably distracted by Sol doing that, and look at Sol for a moment. Then once he's figured out what they're doing, he'll look back at the shrine, and then, oh, oh, there you go. And that rough wood seemed to have been sanded by abrasion from the snow and the ice, and it's got etching in it. And what can I get louder roll? Mm,
Take my
you know
boys,
what?
roll.
Roll a performance.
Oh boy! What's your performance, Lau? It's not bad. Well, it's not awful.
No, 14, that's great. So, like, while it might not necessarily have meant much to Lau personally, he would have seen music written down before. And the wood along the roof has these markings etched into it by the ice and the snow that Chifley had put on it, so that it looks like the bars of a stave, and like it's got a few little marks in it that look almost like a repeat marker, and it's got nice little carving on the front of it, and a little symbol on the front that looks very much like a quaver. And the magic circle that Chifley had drawn in the dirt is shining, not necessarily glowing, but shining like ice in the sun. And Chif's just sort of standing there looking at it going, oh. And he's equal parts confused, but also a bit pleased.
I wasn't gonna hide this. He's just got a big old smirk on his face. He looks over at Chifley and says, "Well, all right. You've certainly, definitely made your mark on it now. I don't think I can mistake this being made by anyone else. That's for certain." He's gonna roll investigation because he's gonna look for something.
Mm-hmm. After you do that, do an
17.
insight.
Oh, investigation. Oh, it's a dirty 20. He's gonna try and look for a maker's mark. Like, is there anything on this that would be like Chifley's signature?
Okay. Mm, um, it takes some looking, and it doesn't quite register as jumping out at you as Chifley at first. Because there's the symbol on the front, the quaver on the front, but it's hidden under the eave towards the back on the left hand side, and it's it almost looks like a snowflake. It has musical notes in it, but it it's definitely a snowflake. And the reason why it takes a second to twig as Chifley is it's not necessarily a symbol. Well, it is a symbol that I was seen before, but maybe hasn't really noticed as such, because he's got it on the cuffs of his boots and on his new belt. And I've got a picture of this. Where is it? Where's my Chifley folder? Doodly 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 doo. Here it is.
When you had that as your icon.
Mm.
Pretty. It's very pretty.
Yeah, so it's subtle because the whole thing is this sort of white snow ice blue white kind of color, but you do eventually find that sort of symbol etched into the wood under the eave.
Lau just kind of doesn't say anything, but he does give a quiet little smirk. His smirk drifts down into a quiet little smile. He looks at that. Yeah, he's just gonna kind of look around and say, a lot has been done already today, but before, I don't know how much longer you want to work on this. He kind of raises a brow. We have gotten some things done.
Well, gosh, I didn't really have an idea of what we would be doing apart from this, so it would be nice to put some flowers around it, I suppose. They seem to like that.
Now smirks, looks at Chifley, and then he's gonna turn towards where everything is. He's like, he's gonna slowly. I'm gonna roll a dex check. Oh God, yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. There's a 3. He was gonna try and slowly lower himself to the ground. He just kind of bumps down, and you see him just kind of fall flat on his back, and the walking the stick, the cane he was using, just kind of like bumps onto the ground next to him. He's like, for fuck's sake.
That's gonna make Chif wince. He's gonna wince and then lean over and offer Lau a hand.
I meant to sit down, not fall on my fucking ass. And he just kind of shakes his head. And then another hammer space. Oh no! Please don't let it be what I think it's gonna be. Oh, thank bugger. It's not the thing that I was scared it would be. Because that does not belong. That I refuse to have that happen in this FPS. You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. That would be an interesting thing.
Well, that would be a hell of a way to end the FPS, I'll tell you that. Also, give me a moment, because I am a foolish creature, and I never pull up my fumble cheats, because I never expect to fumble. That, I believe... Okay, Lau reaches into his collar, then he pulls out what seems to be a bundle of vines kind of lashing out, and he's like, no, you're not supposed to be out yet, for goodness sake. He shoves it back in, has another rummage.
It's not high enough.
No. He reaches back underneath his collar, and I'm gonna have to roll a strength save here, because
oh no.
Damn. You see, like, the hilt of a sword come out, and then it just kind of dunks onto the floor, and Lau tilts to the side. He's like, for fuck's sake, why the hell do I still have you in there? And you can see it's a large, long sword. Like, this is, I don't know how much you know about swords, Chifley, but it's a big old sword. And I was just gonna stare at it and be like, for fuck's sake, why? And he just drags it back towards him and slowly tries to put it back down the collar of his fucking of his fucking sari. And please keep in mind, he's doing this like hilt first, so then he's just trying to grip the size of the sword and slowly slide it down.
And Chifley's doing that. Oh boy.
Okay, 5, I'm accepting that. Just like, for fuck's sake, you better work this time. And he reaches back down. He's like, if you don't work, I'm gonna fucking. And he pulls it out. And he's like, aha, yes, finally, thank you, gods that be. And he pulls out a little seed from the looks of it. And he looks at you, Chifley, and he gives you a bit of a smile and says, give me about an hour, and I'll see what I can do. And he just digs a little hole, not where the magic circle is, just kind of, I'd probably say, would you say there's like steps going up to this shrine? Like in
Um,
terms of detailing, how do you think this would look?
um, no, not necessarily steps. Like it's probably a bit sloped, and the flat area that the shrine itself and where that magic circle is quite flat and level. But then it sort of slopes down towards the water. So no, not steps necessarily. It's quite a gradual incline.
Okay. In that case, he plopped himself just outside of that circle, and he pops this seed in the ground, and he looks over at Chifley and says, this might take about an hour. So I don't know if you wanted to go off home while I do this, or if you wanted to entertain yourself with Soul. But it will require a bit of focus from me.
Hmm. All right. Oh wait.
Al nods, and oh, I've just looked at the time. For the sake
Mm.
of time, I'm just going to say, Soul runs off into the lake, and has a bit of a splash. And I don't know what Chifley would be doing for the hour.
He would probably be sitting not too close to Lau, but still sort of nearby. And he's half watching Lau, half watching Sol, but also just sort of being a little bit introspective because, oh, hey, look, his magic did something he wasn't expecting again. And it's like, oh, and apparently I'm an elemental now. Ah. So he's just having a bit of
Yeah, you
a
should probably
think.
check that out, Chifley. Um, and after about an hour of just kind of Louse sitting there, hands hovering above where he's planted the seed, his eyes are closed. He's very, very still throughout all of this. Um, you eventually get like a little breeze start to kind of wind itself between his curls. They start to bob up and down a little. Um, and you can kind of see like around the circle that is around where the shrine is. You start to see the ground start to rumble and rupture a bit. The earth starts gaining little mounds that seem to be disturbed, and a ton of flowers start to grow out of it. Um, Give me a second. I don't actually have the list of flowers I was going to put in there. I might get back to you about what they are later.
Mm-mm.
Um, and there's just another circle surrounding the other circle that is just a ring of flowers. Um, well, I say a ring. The point from where the seed has grown, uh, it's just kind of like a little. It's not like a flower archway or anything. It's like a clear patch of ground that you can
Mm.
use to enter. And it's more like this. The shrine and the circle have been bordered by a bunch of flowers. Um, you can roll an Arcana as well if you like.
I'm definitely rolling an Arcana. Everything but insight. That's not great, Jeff.
What you got, Chiffers?
6.
Oh, Chiffers. You don't know what Lau's done, but it seems to be some sort of planty thing. And he's good with plants, so this is probably something important.
Mm.
Of some description. But shrug, you don't know exactly what that is or what he's done. Um, yes, after that, Lau just kind of sighs, dusts himself off. And I'm gonna roll another. Why did I put that away? I'm gonna roll another strength. I'm gonna roll a dex save quick to see how well he gets himself up. Oh well, that's decent actually. It's up with little to no issue.
Mhm.
He just kind of pushes himself up with his cane and just, ah, actually good to sit down in something that isn't a chair for a while. Look over his shoulder at whatever you and Sol are doing. Sol is just basically a rubber duck on the lake, slowly bouncing up and down. And Lau's just gonna look at you and then look at what he's done, nod and say, well, for now, that's as protected as it's going to be until we can come back to it, but you're right leaving it like this?
Jeff's smiling so brightly, and he nods and he pulls himself up off the grass and gives the back of his pants a little bit of a brush before coming over. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Lau just nods and says, well, it's a shrine. It needs to be protected. You're welcome, I suppose. Anyhow, we should probably head off, and I'm gonna roll intelligence. Does he remember? Heads towards his chair, then he stops. He turns over his shoulder to look at Chifley, and his eye is narrowed, and the curls on the back of his head slightly tight to the back of his neck, and he gives Chifley a smirk and says, now, Chifley, I don't know if you remember what I asked you to do earlier. If you wouldn't mind, he gestures back to the wheelchair.
I sat in the chair. You didn't say I couldn't get up again.
I did. You're right. However, I did also promise that the next time you didn't take care of yourself, I would push you to the fucking hospital. So, he gestures, flicks his head, get in the chair, Chifley.
You're really gonna do that? I can walk.
Get in the chair, Chifley Forde.
Alright. If you insist. And I'm gonna roll him another dex save. And I'm gonna roll at a disadvantage because I really want him to fail it.
Go for it. That one?
No, not quite. Not quite, but it's only a 4.
Absolutely brilliant.
He's falls straight out of it.
I'll tell you what happens actually. You go to sit down in this chair and you didn't, for some reason you can't quite make out. The chair seems to tilt on its own, go back and then fling you forward. You just land on your face.
Jim's just gonna lie there bewildered for a second and then look over at Lau.
Lau is now next to the chair and he is putting one hand on the arm and he's just tapping the wheels and he's saying, don't be a brat. The chair just kind of shakes a bit. Sake. Fine. Today you can walk, Chifley, because apparently the chair is having itself a bit of a time. And the chair gives a little shake. Fine. Right, okay, fine. I am making sure you go, Chifley. I'm not letting this go. Do you understand? And he plops himself back in the chair, shoots a glare and a finger at Chifley's direction.
Chifley's smiling, but he nods. I understand perfectly.
Good, because if I'm not taking you, Soul's going to be taking you. And Soul kind of bobs their way over to the shore at this point, emerges from the water, gives themselves a big shake, then looks over towards Chifley, giggles.
I promise. I'll get it done before the end of the week.
No. Quick nod of his head. See that you do. Now we should probably head back in to get a bit. Well, time's started to get on, and I'm sure there's other things you wanted to do today. He's just a kind of like gesture onwards for you.
And I think we sort of time skip them to getting out of this lovely little little area, and before they part ways, I think Jeff's going to just sort of pat Lau's shoulder very, very gently as his part of his goodbye when they part ways.
Second. Okay, Chifley, you can definitely feel like a flick of the outline as you touch his shoulder. You know what that's about, but just kind of twitches under you as you tap him. And just gonna clear his throat and say, yes, well, we can get back to each other about when we want to work on that. But yes, I will be checking in to make sure you do go to that doctor's appointment. I'm not letting that go.
No, I'll be sure to tell you all about it once it's done.
Good. Well, I'll see you later then, Chifley. Take care getting home.
I will.
It's just gonna...
And Chif's just got this genuine smile on his face before he turns to go.
Okay. Now goes to pluck at the waistline of his sari as he watches Chifley go, and he's just, for goodness sake, okay, fine. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And he just turns around and heads off home. I will say at this point, Soul has also probably made their way somewhere else because they are very busy. They're very busy. Got stuff to do.
Full schedule.
But yeah, full schedule of mischief and mayhem. Yeah. I guess we can end it there.
Yeah. That was cute.
Thank you for playing with me, Whis.
Oh, thank you. Anytime that Chifley gets yelled at by Lau is always fun.
Anytime Lau gets to yell is fun for Lau.
Oh dear. Oh boy.
Yeah, thank you very much for playing with me. Thank you for anyone that's been listening. I hope you enjoy this. Yeah, hopefully I get to do some more of these with you in the future, Whis.
Yeah, no, this will be fun.
I'll have to DM you later about some stuff when I remember. But yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Say goodbye to everyone listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.